Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Game 5 tonight, Leafs Bruins, right here on TSN Radio. Claude Julien will join us in a moment. Claude knows what it takes to win cups and to go deep in the playoffs and what it's like, Bruins, Leafs.
Be interesting to ask, like, the messaging to players when they're not doing enough, they're talented, and the players know they got to do better. Like, at this point in the season, what could you possibly say? Like, is it a tongue lashing? Is it video? Is it like pat the guy in the back? Mm-hmm. Like, what could you possibly say when someone has struggled through 4 games of a series to get them back on track, or is there anything?
Yeah, it's a good question, and that's one we got to ask him because, you know, how much do coaches fear the idea of coming off as if they're not authentic as well? Like, if you change your own tune out of nowhere, are players just going to look at you and say, what do you think you're doing?
Like I've had Paul Maurice and Peter Laviolette randomly in morning skates. You just cross pass and they're like, hey, stop for a second here. And then it's just out of the blue. It's like, you know, for the last 2 or 3 games, like, you've been bringing nothing to the table. Like, that's how the random, those are work conversations, and they just kind of pop out of the blue.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you think you're kind of in a good mood and you're in a good spot, and then you just in a second realize this guy's been hating your guts for 5 days.
Right.
Which my message was always, why didn't you tell me after 2 shifts? Why did you wait 3 games to watch me? And according to you, you don't like it, so why didn't you tell me after 3 shifts?
Well,
it's a good question.
I think what it is you're trying to allow the player to work themselves out of it. Like, if you had one bad game and they're on you, it's like, okay, that's enough. Like, I know, we all know as athletes.
Fair point.
We all know as athletes we're not playing that well. You think Mitch Marner's going, you know what, I feel great about my goal the other night. Like, he knows. Like, but same thing with John Tavares and all of the players who haven't played to their potential. They know. We're our own worst critics as players and anything we do in life. So I think a coach has to find a fine line between massaging the message, and sometimes you need a kick in the ass, sometimes you need a pat in the back, and sometimes you just need silence. Going, man, you work that out. We all know. We're all thinking the same thing you're thinking. So I'm going to try and help you here. I might place you. I'll come back to what you said, Brian, in the 4 o'clock hour. It's like, here's 24 minutes tonight. That you go work it out. Like, that's basically, like, tonight there's no tomorrow, you know. So here's 24 minutes. See if you can work it out tonight in your game. Like, that's what I would do.
I agree. I feel like that's likely tonight in terms of Keefe, you know, riding the best players basically into the ground. But I also wonder how the players would feel about Keefe drastically changing some sort of a game plan tonight, because you might be thinking, where was that going into game 1? Or after game 2, because based on what we've seen out of this team, they have not played differently. The Leafs have not had a different approach, you know, in terms of how they're trying to break down the neutral zone, how they're trying to create havoc in front of Swayman, how they're finding a way to, you know, score goals and maybe adjust on the power play or the penalty kill. Like, if Keefe is going to change things, and he should because it hasn't worked, if he is going to supply like different tactics tonight, I'd love to be a fly on the wall, because I'm sure players would be like, okay, we'll accept that and we'll try to execute that.
I'm not
what
buying,
the hell took so long?
I'm not buying into tactics. If you watch some of the plays that Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak have made, those are instinctual plays at the certain time of the game where they know we got to go out there and make a difference. You can't, like, tactically say, hey, if you guys carry the puck slowly over the blue line, that might open you up, Willie, and you can get a one-timer. You got to go out there and make a play, man. These are some of the best players in the world, and they're going to try like hell to stop you. They're going to squeeze you off in the neutral zone. Every great player that's ever played has had the best defensive pairing and the best defensive forwards playing against them, and they find a way to make plays. There's no strategic answer here. It's just about making a play.
Yes, I
Like, this is not strategical. Claude will tell you the same thing. Great players just know when to go out and do it. It's not a systematic thing.
They should.
If you need someone to tell you there's a system, you got a serious problem.
Well, I think it's deeper than just, you know, using a catchphrase like system. I guess what I'm saying is Keefe has been here 11 straight games. They have scored 3 or fewer. Like,
do it or don't.
Is that 90% of the players, 95% of the players? Yes, absolutely. But there's got to be a percentage on the coach, or what's the point of even having one? Why is there a coach behind a bench if it's just, sorry, guys, you have to figure everything out? I mean, I think Sheldon Keefe has to take some of the responsibility as to why it hasn't worked yet. Well, and he's got to figure out how it's going to work tonight. And, of course, again, 90, 95, maybe 97% of it, the players are the ones that have to do it. And they deserve the accolades when it goes well and criticism when it goes poorly. But there's a reason you have a coach. And we got a guy with us right now that I guess can answer a lot of these questions. Here is longtime NHL coach, Cup winner, who's in Boston for a long time, making his debut here on OverDrive. Here's Claude Julien. How you doing, Claude?
Doing well, guys. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. We're really appreciative of you taking time for us. Obviously, you've been in these positions before. Up 3-1 in a series, 2013. You guys were up 3-1 on the Leafs at that point. What do you think the mood would be like around the Bruins going into a Game 5 tonight in Boston?
Well, I think especially after what happened last year against Florida, they have to be thinking how important this game is. And that's what I would do with if I was there in Jim Montgomery's spot, is just, make sure that the guys know the importance of this game and not to let it slip, because what you do is you give momentum to the other team, and the other team gets to go home with that momentum, and that's how series can change quickly.
Claude, we were talking about the messaging with star players or any players. Like, when you're struggling at this point in the season, what could the messaging be from a coach? Does it make sense to talk to them? Like, is it the strong conversation? Is it the pat on the back? How do you kind of relay something that they already know, which is they need more? They need to do more.
Well, there's no doubt. I've actually had to do that before in the playoffs with some players, and had to take them aside and have a good chat with them. And you got to explain to them the impact that they have on the hockey club, and what they need to bring in order to be successful. And you're allowed to demand a little bit more of them. That's part of your job, and part of their job is to bring a little bit more. And I think that's what the Leafs have to do right now, is not only as individuals but even as a group. I didn't mind Game 2, and I didn't mind Game 3 of the Leafs, because I think Game 3 could have gone either way. But Game 1 and 4, to me, they were not close to the team that they should be. And that's where, you got to question yourself as far as, what are we, and what do we need to do to be successful? And I know the fans are impatient, and rightfully so. And it doesn't matter whether the players feel the heat or not. You have a job to do. And if you're going to change the narratives, it's up to you to take charge and go out there and do it. And that's the kind of message that the players should be getting, and the players should be, I guess, sharing amongst themselves. You deserve what you get, and right now it just hasn't been good enough.
Claude, how would you approach the in-game adjustments? When you're playing the same team over and over again, obviously back and forth in between each other's buildings, but you're seeing the power play setup. You're seeing how a team handles the neutral zone and how their star players are playing. Is it critical for a guy like Sheldon Keefe to have subtle changes or maybe adjustments, even matchups, to kind of get that upper hand if you're on the road?
Well, a couple of things is, first of all, you don't change what you perceive as your system as a team, but you do make those adjustments. There's adjustments going on all the time. And as you know, in a series of 7 games, when you're playing the same team, teams are making adjustments against the power play and vice versa. So it becomes a little tougher as you move along, but it doesn't mean that you can't make certain adjustments along the way. And I think the one thing I've noticed, and I said right from the get-go of this series, if the Leafs weren't going to get on the inside, they weren't going to have a chance to win. And when I look at Game 2, I look at Game 3, the chances they had were from getting on the inside. Game 1 and 4, I think a lot of it was played on the outside. And so you can't keep, going back and forth. You got to stick with what's been working. And I think for them, if they're a goal-scoring team, which they have been, which they're known as, they got to find ways to get on the inside, get pucks to the net, and create some scoring chances. And the last game I watched, I don't think they created much, because, again, they were kept to the outside, and they got to find a way. Part of it is the players. Part of it is also the coaching staff that has to figure out a way how how to get on the inside of these guys and what you need to do. So it's, again, you can't just blame one group or the other. I think it's both of them that have to be better at making those adjustments.
Is that a danger, Claude, when you've got some offensive players? All we talk about all year is how these guys can create and score, and now they're not. Mike Johnson always talks about it. This isn't a defense problem, goalie. It's special teams, and they can't score goals. So how do you make that adjustment where it's like we got to score more and at the same time not cheat? There's really no simple recipe, is there? It's like you've got to have a ground and pound game, and if you want to cheat offensively and start floating in the neutral zone, you might get clubbed out there 7-0.
Well, I think you know enough. You've played long enough in this league to understand one thing. And for me, in 82 games, it's really, really hard to expect the same out of everybody, right? Every night, you're gonna have some ups, you're gonna have some downs, and it's regular season games. But when it comes to the playoffs, you have to have the ability to elevate your game because it's a 7-game series. You can't afford to be a passenger. You can't afford to get a free pass on certain nights. You got to show up every night. And teams that are successful have that going on. And, again, in 82 games, no matter how much a coach wants that, it's impossible to have. But you have to expect that from your team if you aspire to win a Stanley Cup. You're going to have to expect your players to show up night in, night out. And I think that's what, when you look at most teams that have won the Stanley Cup, they've been able to do that.
With Claude Julien, Game 5, Leafs Bruins tonight, throughout your career, you would have had big games where you're going into it without a key player. Let's use Patrice Bergeron as an example. You're going into a massive playoff game, and Bergeron's not playing. Your players know he's not playing. That's likely the case tonight with Matthews. He may play, but it looks like it's leaning towards him not playing. If you were Sheldon Keefe, and again, you've been in these positions, do you address the elephant in the room? Like, how do you talk to the players, and how do you approach the topic of your best player not being available tonight?
Well, to me, it's pretty simple. You have to give the guys an opportunity to elevate their game, guys stepping up. There's going to be guys that are going to have to take his ice time and everything else. It's an opportunity for guys to show that they can elevate their game and they can still win without a guy like him. This is a challenge the coach has to give to the team. It's been done before. You've seen teams do it. Even the Leafs have done it this year, at times without those players. So why not do it again? Why can't somebody step up? And it's not just about one player. It could be about 2 or 3 players, and you get unsung heroes on different games. Somebody has to do it. And it's a challenge to the whole team. And that's what I would do as a coach, is say, listen, guys, that's one thing we can't control, is whether he can play or not. But what we can control is the rest of our play and what we can bring. And it's an opportunity for somebody here to be the hero tonight. And does somebody want it bad enough? I think it's a matter of wanting it. And that's what somebody has to do if he's not in the lineup.
Claude, we've talked about the Leafs and what they're not doing. What do you see Boston doing so well? What has made them so successful in this series so far? Well,
I see a team right now that believes in, I'm going to say their system or their way of playing. And they believe in continuing to do that. And they're doing exactly what I said, a while ago. If we can keep this scoring team to the outside, if we can make it hard for them to get to our net, and we just are patient, we're going to get our opportunities. And, you get guys like Marchand who stepped up and then played well. I'm telling you right now, if the Bruins were down 3-1 right now, people would probably be wondering what Pasternak has been doing this whole series, because not that he hasn't been great, but he hasn't produced to the level that they're used to. So being on the winning side of things really helps. And what you're seeing right now is the guys, the star players, the McAvoys, the Marchands, and even other guys that, have had to step up. Coyle, who's had to step into Bergeron's shoes, I guess, and other guys that have been able to replace the Krejcis that have been gone. They're doing a pretty good job, but they're playing their game. They believe in what their system is and what has given them success. And I think they're being able to bring that more than the Leafs have been able to bring their game.
with Claude Julien, Game 5, Leafs Bruins tonight, and the lone carryover from your Cup win in 2011 is Brad Marchand, and that team obviously had Bergeron, Chara, Mark Recchi was there, a lot of grizzled veterans, Sean Thornton, among others, and we've heard for years about the culture established by Chara that was bought into by Bergeron and Krejci, and obviously Marchand, and now he's still there. He's wearing the C. He's playing at a level that is higher than anyone else in the series. He's been phenomenal. What can you tell us about, when he got to the league, what you envisioned he could turn into, and now when you consider maybe how that original analysis was on Marchand, considering what he's doing now? Like, what do you make of his career, and how is he continuing to play so well?
Well, I think in his first full season, he started off on the fourth line. And I remember him coming in, and we expected him to grind, to give us some energy, and to get his nose dirty. And as the year went on, he just progressed to the point where I kept moving him up in the lineup. By the end of the year, as you know, he was playing with Bergeron and Recchi. And even in Game 7, he scored 2 goals in that final game. This is a young player that just kind of worked his way into the lineup, and not only into the lineup, but moved up to the top line by the end of the playoffs. So what we figured he would be probably a good third liner, grinder. I think over the years he started showing that skill level that maybe developed along the way, or maybe that we didn't even quite see at the beginning. But nonetheless, he's turned himself into a really good player. I know for a fact. We end up spending a lot of time, he and I, in my office, chatting about some of the things that he was doing earlier on in his career that was getting him in trouble. And, he was always very receptive, and it was just with time and experience that he's been able to kind of stabilize himself without losing his identity. But he's turned into a really good leader because he's had great examples along the way. As you mentioned, the Cheras, then he ended up with Bergeron. Recchi was there, Chris Kelly. There was tons of great leaders that he could learn from, and he's been able to do that. And now it's a matter of him hopefully teaching others to continue that tradition.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be an interesting one tonight. Again, in 2013, your Bruins were up 3-1 on the Leafs. We know that went to 7. 2018, the Bruins were up 3-1 on the Leafs. That went to Game 7. I don't know if you can pick up on any vibes this time of that possibly happening, but do you recall that kind of scenario and what the mood was like around the Bruins, your Bruins in 2013 when the Leafs did push that to 7, considering you guys were in the driver's seat really leading into this series and certainly through the first 4 games?
Well, absolutely. And, even Game 7, where I don't think everybody knows this, but after we lost Game 6 in Toronto, it was going back home to play Game 7. And somehow we had plane issues after Game 6. We ended up sleeping in Toronto. We ended up scrambling to find a hotel and even having a meal while Toronto made its way to Boston, and we're waiting there for us. So we had not only was it a challenge of having to come back from being up 3-1, but it's a matter of winning Game 7 after having those odds go against you. So, falling behind in the third period and then being able to come back, I think showed a lot of character from our guys. They never gave up. They found a way to win, and those are great memories. But at the same time, I've been down 3-1 where we've been able to come back, and that was with Montreal in my first stint there against Boston. We're down 3-1. Sometimes it's just a matter of winning that next game, and I'm going to tell you, if Toronto wins that game tonight, all of a sudden, do the doubts go into Boston's minds as far as, is this going to be a repeat of last year? Now, if they win tonight, they go back to Toronto, hopefully with some momentum and giving themselves a chance to create a Game 7. You never know. Again, we can predict all we want. This is I guess the mystery of sports, is that you have surprises all the time, and it creates the excitement, and it makes us look bad at times because our predictions aren't always right.
Absolutely. We'll see. That's why they play the games. There's 4 of them tonight. They're going to be fun games. Enjoy them all, and we really appreciate you doing this. Thank you, Claude.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Claude Julien, Longtime NHL coach, former Bruin coach, Cup winner in Boston.
Great guest, great speaker.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that segment.
That was great. And you know what? I did not know that because in 13, that was the lockout year. Game 6 was Sunday. Game 7 was Monday. That was
Monday
a back-to-back.
night. Yeah, it was
So
back-to-back.
That I was not aware that they couldn't get out of Toronto. And
When did he say they ultimately flew out?
Monday morning.
I guess Monday morning. Yeah, I guess they had to stay the night in a hotel and get something to eat, and then they flew in. And because I don't remember that
still
being
won.
reported. And not only did they win, they were down 4-1 with 11 minutes to go.
That was the 4-1.
Yeah.
That was the game.
They found a plane with 11 minutes to go, and they jumped on it, and they flew right out of Boston with a win.
Positive vibes only.
Positive vibes only.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, we got four game 5s tonight. How many do we think are going to a game 6? How many of the teams that are underdogs tonight? Toronto.
Blurt out the matchups, and
Okay.
I'll say yes or no.
Boston, Toronto.
No.
Carolina, New York.
No.
Winnipeg, Colorado.
No.
Vancouver, Nashville.
No.
Okay, so you're
So
0 for
zero?
4. You're zero
No,
teams win tonight when their backs are up against the
I'll
wall.
bet you $700 right now. I'll bet you $7 grand.
No, you're not. You're going to lose that money. Somebody, the odds.
take that.
Take
Okay.
it.
I'll
Hayes.
take it.
You
Take
give me
it.
odds.
No. Noodles didn't have to chime in with the word odds. You're adamant
Yeah.
that your boys are going for starters.
Give me 2-1.
All right, I'll give you 2-1. 2-1.
700.
2-1 that one of the teams that are down 3-1 will win tonight. I have a difficult time I think Nashville can do it tonight. That series has been really close. The Leafs can win tonight. Of course they can.
Dude, they could have
the
won game 1. They could have won game 3.
I
They could have won. They could have won
Of
them all.
course they could have. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the could have, should have league. That's why they're in the position they're in. And Julien, his analysis is 100% accurate. Played well in game 2, played well in game 3. They got a split there. They didn't show up in game 1, and they were horrendous in game 4. Like,
Right.
it's self-inflicted. The Leafs are in the position. If you're down 3-1, but you battled and Swayman stood on his head, you could live with that. I think the reason why there's so much animosity and vitriol in the fan base right now and disappointment is that game 1 was so bad and game 4 was so flat. Like, there's just no explanation for playing like that.
Dude, it's just, if
Right.
you go to and I hate to bring this up because it's so long ago, but it's just an example. It's like when the Leafs lost out to LA and Vancouver, they threw everything at them and they went down scratching and clawing. It wasn't like, if this ends tonight, that's one of the most miserable series losses I can ever imagine. Like, it's just like, it's like they didn't even know they were in a playoff series. It's like they're playing 4 or 5 games. It's like, oh, let's see if I can get a goal tonight. It's like there was no build up to it. It was just a flat type of non-eventful thing. It'll be a miserable series lost. Like, if this ends, can you say, man, at least they went down scrapping and clawing and fighting? It was just no.
No, but I mean, I think at least one series goes to the game 6. I'm not going to tell you who because I don't know, but I think there's going to be at least one team out of these 4 that push it to a game 6.
You got to give me the
I'm
team,
playing
though,
the odds.
Noodles. You got to give me the team.
I don't know. I can't. I can't because you can make an argument for all of them to push back into a game 6.
You know what?
Even-
I'll give you Winnipeg on a Hellebuck performance that's outrageous.
He better do it tonight, man. You talk about pressure. There's got to be a lot on Hellebuck tonight. Like, because it's the one position where he's on the ice for every second.
Not because he can do it, because he hasn't done it or
Right.
even close.
The whole team has defensively they've been torched. So there's been breakdowns. They have not played systematically anywhere close to the way they did all year, which was really successful and really defensively sound. So it's not just Hellebuck, but he's the best goalie in the world. He's going to win the Vezina unanimously.
You expect it.
And it's been a disaster for him. Like, let's call it what it is. He's really struggled. But there is an example, as we were saying with Duffy. You tell me he can't have a game where he says, screw it, we're not losing tonight? Yes, it can. Yeah. Like, of course he can. If he plays like that, there's nothing Colorado can do. So, I think Winnipeg can win tonight. Even the Islanders, like, if Sorokin...
Dude, anybody can do anything, Hayes. It's just the likelihood.
It's far-fetched.
It's the likelihood.
It's obviously far-fetched. Yes, they're all dogs for a reason.
Now, I think it's Varlamov, though.
Oh, is Varlamov going
in? Oh, yeah. Like, Sorkin's done. He
was
pulled.
brutal the other night.
Imagine giving that goalie an extension and having
and now you got to pull him again.
He's a hell of a goalie, though. Like, they've got to sort that thing out.
Noodles.
This kid's
Mitch
25.
Marner's a hell of a player. Like,
I
so
know,
is Nylander, so is all the Leafs, but they're not getting it done. But
Sorkin hasn't done it 8 years in a row. That's my point. This kid's 25.
I get it.
Just become the starter. Like he's for
right now, though, not getting it done. I'm just speaking about the now.
And it's more highlighted because of the position. You can't, you can take ice away from a winger who's not playing well or push him down the lineup. The goalie, you either play or you don't, and if you don't, it's a bad look.
It is a bad look. He's their starter, and he's not playing, and they didn't play him down the stretch because Varlamov, the 35-year-old goaltender, outplayed him.
Played really well. Absolutely.
Yeah. I got to fly. You got to do something that bugs me a lot. You got to get a cover for your phone. I hate the fact you don't have a cover on your phone.
Do you drop it? Like, have you ever broken a screen?
I don't know why. Like, you got kids. You need a cover on the phone.
Yeah, there's a backstory for that. I've always had a cover, and what was happening was there was, like, lint getting into the charging portal, and it was causing me huge issues, so I had to get rid of it.
Dude,
and
we work at a phone company. You get a different one. Let's get a case for that. I'll bring you one next time I see you.
I have multiple cases. I guess it's just a matter of me throwing one on. I don't know why that would bother you, though. Why is that an issue?
Because I think about stupid stuff.
But what's the point of a phone? Like, it's a phone, right? Like, why do we have to live in a society where you have to put a case on a phone? Why? Well, they've been building these iPhones for 20 years now. Why can't they find one or build one
that
is more susceptible to falling and breaking? You know what never used to break? The big goofy rotary phones on the wall. Those things didn't break. Right? Those things always worked.
Yeah. I mean,
a flip phone doesn't.
But the counter is put a case on that thing and just don't have to worry about it.
I hear you. It's probably overdue. But now, because you pointed that out, I might have to just cruise through the spring. I have to now.
You're not doing it. Like, on principle, now you're going to walk around with George Costanza's phone. Like, no cover on it. Like, you should let the girls bedazzle it or something like that.
They have their own phones. Like, they don't have a phone number or anything like that. Any old phone in our house just is on Wi-Fi and
the
YouTube Kids and Roblox.
Yeah.
This Roblox game is...
Well, believe me. My son he's obsessed with it.
My oldest.
My son came in yesterday.
I'm so glad
I'm not lying.
Deal with that anymore.
He had tears in his eyes, and I'm like, what's up, buddy? Did you fall? He's like... He got jobbed on a trade, because they're probably an older kid trade something to him, and the guy rinsed him, or the girl, who knows?
Yep.
And it's probably some guy in Germany, and the kid got jobbed.
Yep.
And he's like, I traded whatever.
Something that he had worked hard for to accumulate, and some guy...
And just rinsed him.
I know.
And the saddest face, I'm like, what happened? He's like... I traded this guy, and the guy was not available for trade once he took my
so greasy.
My guy.
It's so gutless.
Oh my God.
It's so gutless. But that's my daily occurrence. My oldest daughter will play with her friends, and I can hear them complaining about that. Like, no, I traded this, I traded that. And I'm like, what is happening right now? So
it was insane.
Anyway, I'll look into the case.
Yeah.
Let me think of something on you. I'll have something for you.
Dude, this is
outside of running in the rain.
You don't have to try to cut for the throat here. Like, if you want to say you're still fat or something,
I wouldn't
this is
do
just
anything
a simple
personal
observation about the phone.
Okay, I appreciate that. Looking out for my phone. I think it's a slick looking phone. The thing is, it looks better without a case. Like it does. Admittedly, it's.
Don't agree.
The goofy, because there's some goofy cases out there. Like some people.
I'm not talking about cases. You put the.
Not that I
the door knocker on the back of it so you can hold.
Yes,
what the hell is that thing?
Yeah, I don't understand the door knocker
or whatever.
Yeah, the door like that thing is just a weird apparatus.
No,
and how because you put it like.
How do you get it in your pocket?
How do you put it in your pocket? Exactly. When you
show up on the first date with the door knocker on the back of your iPhone, you just might as well pack it in.
Yeah, you can't have it. I don't think it's something that you can do.
Exactly.
All right, I'll look into that for you. Get you an update.
See you later.
All right, confirm and deny coming up. We've got CJ coming up, Chris Johnston. Cheryl will join us around the table. 4 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Jays with a big win and run production last night. Yeah. Run production last night. Not necessarily prevention, but production. More on that still to come as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, confirm or deny, brought to you by Summit Ford and Southlake Ford Lincoln, where there are no denies, only confirms when it comes to trades. Any make, any model, we will take it. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com. We love it. All right, confirm or deny. Statements are made. We go around the table and we confirm them or we deny it. Very simple.
Yep.
Confirm or deny, one of Steven Stamkos or John Cooper will not be back in Tampa next season.
Ooh. I'm going to deny it. I think they're both back. I think that Stamkos, like even listening to Coop's comments last night, watching his post game, like he even said, like, I don't envision a world where Steven Stamkos isn't Tampa Bay Lightning for life. So, and he said, again, I don't control it. This is Coop talking. I don't control it, but he goes, yeah, I think that Steve and Julien will get it worked out at some point. So that kind of, like, there was a lot of things Coop said last night, and some people didn't like that stuff. I get, some of the stuff, but outside of some of his candid comments about the organization moving forward, it sounded like, Steven would be back and that he would be back. And I don't know why he would not be, which is crazy. Why would John Cooper lose his job?
No, I think the only way he would leave is if he wanted a new challenge. Like there has been a long history of coaches in every sport saying, I've done it all, windows closed or whatever, enough is enough, thanks for coming out, been here for a decade. Pat Burns famously used to do that all the time. Like, Pat Burns in Montreal, that's enough. In Toronto, thank you, we're out of here. And it's labeled a firing or mutual agreement or whatever, but it was kind of understood that he had, the writing was on the wall, he wanted to do something different. So I don't think he would be fired. I just wonder if he takes a step back and thinks maybe I'll take on a different challenge. I think he's got 1 year left on his deal. But I'm going to deny it as well because I think Stamkos and the team will figure this out. I think they will. I think he's going to have to take a big discount. I think he probably will be acceptant of that. Cooper, he's got 1 year left. Why wouldn't you come back? This year they still made the playoffs. It didn't go well for them. They lose in 5. Their best players weren't great. Kucherov did nothing in the playoffs. Yeah, he was
quiet.
Yeah, like if he didn't have 2 cup rings and, Hart trophies and stuff, or played in the Canadian market, he'd be getting the Marner-Pettersson treatment. But he doesn't because he's in Tampa and he's Kucherov. But I think Stamkos and the team will likely figure it out. Cooper, I could see Cooper. I don't think Cooper's going to be there for life because that's just not the nature of any head coach in pro sports. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. Like, very rarely do you get a lifetime achievement award like Belichick did, but even that came to an end. Like, Popovich in San Antonio. But I could see him looking for a new challenge at some point. I'm just not convinced it's going to be next year.
Yeah, also, too, I remember when they had that rough start, was a couple years ago, and Julien Brisebois was interviewed, and he flat out said, like, why would I fire John Cooper? I'd just be looking for the next John Cooper. Mm-hmm. Like, and maybe that comment has resonated with me, and I'm kind of a little bit blinded because you're right. All good things come to an end. I just don't think it will be this summer. For that, though.
I don't think, again, Tampa would be driving that. I think it would be Cooper related, and even maybe Stamkos. Like, maybe there's a scenario where Stamkos gets away from this and goes, you know what, I could use a new challenge, or I want to get paid a certain amount of money, and they're not willing to pay it to me here. Like, I don't get the impression there's bitterness from what happened 8 years ago, but that was a pretty famous ultimatum laid out by Steve Yzerman at the time. Like, this is it. There's no more negotiating. 8 years, 8.5, take it or leave it. If you want to leave, there's the door. He ended up accepting it, sticking around. It worked out well for him, but, like, the finances are important for a lot of people. He may feel like they still owe him money for the way he's played the last 8 years.
Well, and he had 40 this year.
Yeah, he had a great year.
33-year-old. He's going to be 34. I know I don't want to get long on this, but what is his next deal? If you and I were just going, what do you think if we were guessing? What does Steven Stamkos' deal looks like? We could say free agent, but also with Tampa.
But that's 2 totally different scenarios.
Agreed.
So I don't think you can. I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think as a free agent, I think he can get a 5-year deal somewhere. I think it could be a relatively lengthy deal with, I don't know, $8 million, something like that. 7, especially if it's a team. Like, let's say Chicago, using them as an example. They have all the money in the world, They want a winning veteran type atmosphere around Bedard. Who would be better than Stamkos? To step in, great player, leaders, won Cubs. I could see them saying, "Hey, we'll give you the money to jump on board." But Tampa's not going to match that. Tampa's not going to do that because Tampa obviously still thinks they can win with a couple of tweaks.
Right.
So I think it's two totally separate conversations. All right, moving on here. Confirm or deny, a loss in Game 5 tonight for the Leafs will guarantee the breaking up of the core four in Toronto.
I'm going to confirm that. The one thing that always crossed my mind is when Brad Treliving took over, he was jumping on a moving train. Like he was, there were probably a lot of things in place already that he just had to execute and was going to just see how this group unfolded. He's been here for a year. I think if they lose tonight, there will be massive change. And, a new president, Keith Capelli, involved, probably want to make a splash. I think they're just, through osmosis, there will be change. And I think this would be the end of it. And I don't know who it would be, what it would be, but I think there would be change. And we've expected it. We've said it in past years. I think this one would be executed.
Yeah, I'm going to deny that it's guaranteed because we have literally been saying this probably since the Columbus meltdown, certainly the Montreal meltdown. Like that was 4 years ago. That was a long time ago where we've done the same song and dance. And I just don't believe if Shanahan is still here, it's going to happen. I don't think he sees it that way. Like he is pot committed to the core four and them getting it done. But there's also another element that's very important here. Even if the team, Treliving, whoever it happens to be, has an appetite for it, the players hold all the cards. Like Matthews and Nylander aren't going anywhere, obviously.
Right.
Like Matthews isn't going anywhere. They just signed Willie to an 8-year deal. He's not going anywhere. So it's Tavares or Marner. Okay, I can reason with that. I could understand why they would want to move past possibly both guys, just to change it up, not even from a personal standpoint. It's just they've made their decision on Matthews and Nylander, so something else has to give, and it's going to be those two guys. They both have a full no move, full no trade. So you can go to them all you want and say, we're going to make changes and you guys are the guys. If they say no, what the hell are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about it.
No.
You can try to make their lives uncomfortable, but everything Shanahan and the Maple Leafs have done over the last 8 to 10 years would suggest they are completely adverse to that. Everything is about treating the players properly, protecting the players, making sure they're insulated, making sure they're comfortable. And now you're going to flip and go evil and say, screw it. I don't care what we signed you to. I don't care who you are, where you're from. You need to go and we're going to get rid of you. I'll believe that when I see it. I'm not convinced that happens. I certainly am not convinced that happens if Brendan Shanahan's still running the show.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's someone else. But
that's what I think.
And that could happen. That could happen.
I think there'll be significant change, and it might start at the top. It's been around. It's
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Lots of change.
That's a great run if that happens, right? Like if Shanahan, if they decide, okay, we need a different set of eyes and voice and vision and all that. Like 10 years in a role in pro sports is an eternity. Like that's actually a testament to what you've done, what you've accomplished, how the ownership feels about you, et cetera. 10 years is an incredible run.
Yeah.
All right. Confirm and deny. LeBron James will opt out of his deal and leave the Lakers.
I don't know. I think he opts out and tries to bully them into signing more players and doing like
or
literally
drafting Bronny.
Exactly. Like to me, there is something where he opts out and he uses his leverage with ownership and says, I want my son here, but I also want X, Y, and Z players and make it happen. And because my teammates were too old, they had maybe it's street clothes. Like maybe somebody maybe it's, they got to get rid of other people. But I think he likes his LA life.
As he should. I don't disagree with that.
Like his LA life. Basketball, he still does what he does. He still gets it done. And how old is he? 39?
Yeah, it'd be 39, yeah.
He's still bring it on the court,
man. He's still playing.
But I think he's got other interests, and LA is the center of those interests.
I agree.
So I think he opts out, but just uses it for leverage to execute another plan that he wants to to follow through with.
Yeah, I'm denying it for the same reasons. I don't see him leaving LA. I mean, it's possible if Bronny stays in the draft and gets drafted. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Like based on scouting reports and all that, this kid's not ready to be in the NBA, not even close. But someone might take him with the understanding that LeBron will come too, right? Like there will be an owner. This is what I guarantee you will happen. An owner will step in and say, take the kid.
Yeah.
Because we might get LeBron. And it won't be a smart business. It won't be a smart competitive reason. It may be a brilliant business reason, though, because that'll be on every ESPN game, TNT.
Yeah.
LeBron and Bronny playing together. Like, even if the team doesn't win a game and Bronny's a disaster, it'll be must-see TV.
I've got one for you. What if Cleveland chose him? Like, going home, bringing him home, him and his son going home.
Man, that would be something.
Like, there's the storyline. You're right. Like, that's people dust off the LeBron jerseys that they haven't burned from when he left the last time. And now, does he want to move back to Cleveland? Like, I think, what would be the worst scenario? What owner would just be like, what would be the worst team to draft LeBron or LeBron's son, Bronny, to think that LeBron would be coming?
It's
like what, Oklahoma, like what, what's the...
No, I mean, it would probably be, you're probably talking Charlotte, like a city that he has no affiliation with, that a team that's terrible all the time, Detroit, Detroit's in the Midwest, so, there might be a connection there between Cleveland and the Pistons. But yeah, I mean, there's probably a handful, let's be honest, the Raptors would probably be up there. Like, if we're being truthful here, the Raptors would be up there. Because they're just not a very good team. I don't think he wants to move up here. He loves coming up here. He comes up in the summer. He's got a great relationship with the city, but I don't think he's dying to come up here because he also would know that they have no chance of winning. I think in a perfect world, LeBron would want Bronny to go somewhere
like the Knicks.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the play. The Knicks grab him in the second round. LeBron comes to, and they're competitive. And he teams up with Brunson and Anunoby and whatever else. I mean, that would be a perfect world scenario. The question is, would LeBron do it for cheap? Yeah. Like if a team took Bronny, and they're up against the cap, and they have basically a mid-level exception, would he go to New York for $8 million, or $12 million, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that would challenge how much he really wants to see that happen. Because it'd be one thing to say I want to play with him, but I'm only playing with him if you pay me $55 million.
Yeah, that's
then it's like, how badly do you really want to play with him? Exactly. Confirm and deny. Brought to you by Summit Ford and South Lake Ford Lincoln, where there are no denies, only confirms when it comes to trades. Any make, any model, we will take it. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com. All right, Chris Johnston from Boston coming up. Cheryl Pounder will join us around the table as well. 4 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. The Jays back in action as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Leafs Bruins game 5 tonight. Right here on TSN Radio. Chris Johnston down there. CJ alongside Jonas Siga reporting. It's unlikely Matthews plays tonight. He was out for a skate this morning. Couple of drills. 8 or 9 minutes on the ice, then he left. We'll find out. I mean, obviously, the Leafs are hoping he plays. I think we're all hoping he plays. But if he doesn't, at some point we'll find out what's going on. But it seems like there's something really ailing this guy. I mean, the idea of him leaving the game after 40 minutes and then possibly not playing Game 5 of a playoff series is there's got to be something really going on there. So we'll see what CJ can tell us about that in about 10 minutes. Game 2 of the Royals-Jays series with Barrios on the mound tonight. That's positive vibes considering the way he's been pitching this year. And I'll tell you what, Justin Turner, he has been a rock star for the Jays, absolutely. And, they're 500. We were talking about it yesterday, like there's a negative tone to it. There's not a ton of optimism because of what happened last year, the offseason being what it is. There's a lot of focus on the Maple Leafs right now in this city. But even with everything going against them the way that it has, and a lot of it is just simply players not pulling their weight, they're 500. Yeah. They're 500 with 120 games left to play, 130 games. Yeah. So we'll see what they've got tonight with Rios on the mound.
No, they're hanging around, and you're right.
Hanging around.
I'd still like. I mean, we want more consistency out of them, but there is some good positive stories. It's just the ones that we expect, Vladdy and Bo and all, like, they haven't been super positive. So if they can get going and feel better about their games, then let's see what this team has. Like you mentioned, there's so much time left. But, they're hanging around. They're 500. Let's see if they can get above 500 tonight. Yeah,
let's see if they get above it tonight. All right, so more on that into the next hour. Chris Johnston will join us from Boston, and Cheryl Pounder coming up. She'll join us in studio to tee up the other 3 games, including Winnipeg looking to survive and Vancouver looking to punch their ticket to the second round. There's a lot of action coast to coast tonight. Final hour coming up. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050, and on the TSN app.